Some stories begin with fireworks. Mine began with a crumpled scrap of paper. The kind that shouldn't matter, the kind you almost throw away without reading. But something about it felt wrong. A heaviness. A tug. Like the universe whispering, "Pay attention, this is where everything changes." It was a Thursday, one of those painfully ordinary days where the silence feels heavier than usual and even the fridge hum sounds louder than your own thoughts. I was cleaning out the junk drawer, the drawer everyone has, stuffed with dead batteries from 2 elections ago, pens that gave up during the pandemic, keys to locks I probably don't even own anymore. And buried under all that pointless clutter was a receipt. At first glance, nothing unusual. But then I saw the date, the time, the location, and suddenly my whole chest tightened because there was no possible universe where Daniel, my husband, could have been there when that receipt says he was. And that's when the first crack appeared. Quiet, small, but sharp enough to change everything. It wasn't mine. It wasn't hers either, not for anywhere she claimed to be. 2 cocktails, an appetizer sampler, a ribeye, a vegan lasagna. The date, 2 weeks ago. The place, our anniversary restaurant. The one that meant something to us. Or at least I thought it did. My stomach didn't just drop. It twisted like it was trying to warn me before my mind dared to catch up. That single piece of paper said more than 100 carefully worded conversations ever could. But I didn't confront her. Not that night. Not the next one. Instead, I did what people do when their world starts to tilt. They watch. They listen. They wait. And slowly, painfully, I started noticing things I had been too trusting, or too hopeful, to see. The way she barely laughed at my jokes anymore. How she began locking the bathroom door just to check work emails. The sudden perfume on days she claimed she was only seeing her sister. Then came Sunday. We were in the kitchen folding towels, 2 people going through the motions of a life no longer shared. And she said it. No trembling voice, no build-up, no, "We need to talk." She just blurted it out like she was ordering breakfast. "I want to live for myself, without you." And I don't know why, but I didn't break. I didn't beg. I didn't even blink. I just looked at her and said, with a calmness I didn't know I still had, "Then go ahead. But not in my house, and not on my dime." Her face changed instantly, like she'd been slapped by a truth she wasn't prepared to hear. She whispered, "That's not what I meant," but she did mean it when she said it. And I meant it when I answered. Because freedom has a price, and I'd been the one footing the bill far too long. When those words finally hit her, she didn't look sad. She didn't look angry. She looked panicked, like she'd made a move in a game she thought she was winning, and suddenly realized she'd lost the whole match. She couldn't find any words after that. She just walked away, clutching her phone like it was a lifeline. Always the phone. So I went upstairs, shut myself in my office, opened a new document, and started writing a list. Not a message, not an argument. A list of every sign I had ignored. Item 1. 2 months ago she changed her phone background from our picture at Lake Crescent to some random sunset she'd never seen in real life. Item 2. She unfollowed my sister for no reason and pretended it was an accident. Item 3. She started wearing lingerie again, but never for me. Only on those nights she went out with coworkers. The more I listed, the clearer everything became, and the worse it hurt. Then I crossed a line. One I'm not proud of. I picked up her tablet. She barely used it anymore, but it was still synced to her phone. Maybe she forgot. Maybe she assumed I'd never check. But there it was. All of it. My messages, screenshots, hotel confirmations, nicknames I wish I could unread. And the guy, Jerry. Not John. Not Jake. Jerry. The kind of name you hear from a guy who uses too much hair gel and calls every waiter boss. They'd been talking for 6 months. And it wasn't innocent. Not even close. They had their routines. Wednesday studio nights, Friday escape rooms, and Sundays she supposedly spent with her mom, even though her mom moved to Florida months ago. She was renting hotel rooms using my last name, my credit card, my trust. I read messages like, "He's so gentle. I almost feel bad, but he's always there, like a puppy." And the one that made something inside me go numb. "Let's wait until after my birthday." Curtis always plans something big and I don't want to raise questions yet. She was literally using me for the birthday budget before planning to dump me. I closed the tablet. Didn't cry. Didn't yell. Didn't throw anything. I just walked to the kitchen and made tea. While the water boiled, I looked around at the home I remodeled, the kitchen I built to make her feel more inspired to cook even though she never did. Every tile, every drawer, every spoon felt like it was whispering the same brutal truth. You paid for this illusion. But the worst part? I didn't even hate her. I hated myself. I hated how I romanticized her distance. How I let her make me feel invisible. How I mistook scraps of attention for love. How I let half effort feel like devotion. But things got even worse. Because the next morning, when I finally confronted her, expecting at least a flicker of remorse, maybe even guilt, what she said next didn't just hurt me. It rewired me. The next morning I played it cool. Made coffee. Fed the dog. Acted like nothing had happened. Not because I was okay, but because I wanted to hear her say it. Out loud. So when we both ended up in the living room, me reading a magazine I wasn't actually reading, her scrolling through her phone like it wasn't holding half the truth of our broken life, I finally said it. I know about Jerry. She froze, not dramatically, just a tiny pause in her scrolling, a stiff inhale. She tried to play it off with a flat, "Who?" I repeated the name. She finally looked up at me, eyes small and calculating, and all she said was, "You went through my stuff?" I didn't even answer. I just stared. That's when she delivered the line that still makes my blood pressure spike. "You're overreacting. It's not like I love him." As if betrayal only counts when there's roses and candlelight. As if 6 months of emotional abandonment somehow mattered less because she didn't say, "I love you," while doing it. Then she said I'd been too available. That I made her feel watched. That she needed to feel unattached for a while. Like loyalty was optional. Like commitment was seasonal. Like cheating was something you do to find yourself. And that was when everything changed. She said she wanted to feel unattached. Unattached. While still wearing my ring, living under my roof, eating meals from my kitchen, and using my last name to sneak into hotel rooms like a discount code. And I don't know why, maybe because the absurdity finally snapped something in me, but I laughed. A real laugh. One of those sharp, cold laughs that doesn't come from amusement but from disbelief so heavy it borders on madness. She instantly got defensive. "Curtis, this isn't funny. You're twisting everything. You don't understand what I've been going through." And that was the moment something inside me clicked. She didn't feel guilty. Not even close. She felt inconvenienced. Like getting caught was the real tragedy here. I walked to the front door, opened it wide, the cold air pouring in like truth itself, and I said calmly, almost too calmly, "Then go. Go live for yourself, Lainey. Be free, just don't do it inside a home that was built on my loyalty." Her jaw tightened, but her feet didn't move, because she never actually thought I'd follow through. Not me. Not the guy who always forgave, always folded, always tried one more time. She stayed frozen in that doorway, the script she'd rehearsed crumbling in her hands. You're really kicking me out?" she finally whispered. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She tried a different tactic. "You're being petty, Curtis. This isn't how adults handle marriage." That's when I finally turned to her and said, "You're right. Adults don't handle marriage by sneaking off with someone named Jerry while their husband is outside designing the deck she wanted for summer." She rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, that again. That again. Like infidelity was just a minor inconvenience. Like cheating was a stubbed toe we could walk off. But here's the part one wasn't ready for. She didn't leave. She didn't slam the door. She didn't call a friend, book a hotel, nothing. She started doing laundry. That night she cleaned the bathroom, cooked dinner, lit a candle, my candle, the same one she used to say gave her headaches. She was moving around the house like she was trying to bury the truth under normal chores, as if routine could erase betrayal. Pretend her choices didn't burn our entire life to the ground. Then came the real twist. "I told Jerry it's over," she announced over dinner, stabbing her pasta like it personally offended her. "You made your point." I didn't even look up. "Curtis, can we not make this a thing? Can't we just Reset. Reset. As if we were an app that crashed and just needed a quick refresh. So I asked her, "Why didn't you leave?" She shrugged, actually shrugged. "Because this is still my life. Just because you're hurt doesn't mean I stop existing." And that's when I finally understood. She wasn't staying because of love. She was staying because she didn't think I had the backbone to follow through. But this time, she was wrong. I had a plan. One that started with an envelope hidden behind the microwave, a place I knew she'd never check because you need to cook to stand there. Inside was a list, not about her, about me. My income, equity, accounts, every detail of what was actually mine. I slid it across the table the next morning. She didn't look up, just sipped her coffee like we were in some silent domestic standoff. "What's this?" she asked. "Reality," I said. She opened it. Her eyes scanned down the page. I watched the moment everything inside her collapsed quietly. This looks serious." "It is. I already met with a financial advisor. Everything that belongs to me will be separated starting this week. You wanted to live for yourself. Great. Think of this as your head start." Her voice cracked. "You're actually cutting me off?" I nodded. Not in revenge. In clarity. People like her survive in the space between your words and your actions. They depend on you never pulling the trigger. This time I did. "Curtis," she whispered softer now, "you're really doing this." "You already did," I replied. And that was when the tears came, not tears of heartbreak, not regret, but consequence. The type of tears people cry when the safety net they took for granted is suddenly gone. I didn't comfort her. Didn't offer a tissue. Didn't sit beside her. I clipped the dog's leash and said, "I'll be back in an hour. When I return, I want you to decide. Are you leaving or am I?" No yelling. No slamming doors. Just quiet certainty. But when I came home, something felt wrong. The house wasn't peaceful. It was tense, like the walls themselves were waiting. The lights were off. Curtains drawn. For a moment I actually thought she'd left. That she'd packed up and slipped away like she once slid into another man's hotel bed. But no. She was in our bedroom, sitting on the edge of the mattress, holding a photo album. Our album, one we hadn't touched in years. She didn't look up when I walked in. "I was remembering the night you proposed," she said softly. I nodded. "Of course. You were shaking." "You dropped the ring," she murmured. "I didn't drop it," I corrected. "It slipped because you grabbed my hand too fast." She laughed, a single tired little breath of nostalgia. Then she stood, walked toward me and handed me something. Not a key, not a gift, a letter. She told me she'd written something the night before. Not after the argument, not after the tears, but before I showed her the envelope. Before she realized I wasn't bluffing anymore. She said she opened it carefully like it was some fragile thing that might break if she handled it too rough. It wasn't long. It wasn't heartfelt. And it definitely wasn't an apology. It was a strategy sheet. A list of conditions, as she called them, terms for reconciliation. Weekly relationship check-ins. Mandatory therapy, a trial separation, but still living together. Total financial transparency from both sides. It was a contract disguised as a confession. I looked up at her and said, "This isn't a letter. This is a negotiation." She nodded like being caught was the same thing as being wise. Like controlling the fallout meant she still controlled me. "You're trying to salvage control, Lainey," I told her. She shook her head, pretended it was something noble, and said quietly, "No, I'm trying to survive. Because if you cut me off, I'm done. I don't have anyone else." And that, oddly, didn't hurt. It landed like a slap made of fog. Not painful, just sad. Pathetic even. She'd bet everything on me staying soft. On me choosing pity over peace. I folded the paper, looked her dead in the eyes and said, "You always had someone else. That was the problem." She opened her mouth, probably ready to twist everything again, but I held up a hand. I'm not negotiating with someone who only wants me when I walk away. And in that moment, whatever last card she thought she still held, burned to ash. But I had one move left. One she never imagined I'd actually make. That night I didn't sleep. I lay beside her in silence, listening to her breathe, feeling like it was counting down to something. She tried everything: denial, detours, manipulative compromises, sad little emotional traps. And through all of it, I stayed calm. What she didn't understand was simple. My silence wasn't weakness. It was preparation. So in the morning, I didn't give her any speech. No dramatic monologue. I just got dressed, grabbed the folder I'd put together the week before, and drove to the bank. I'd been setting this up slowly, quietly, methodically, making sure she didn't hear the gears turning. The house was in my name. The savings accounts were too. Even the joint account? Guess who the primary holder was? I froze the joint card, canceled her secondary access, moved half the liquid funds into a business account she had no legal pathway to. Not out of revenge, out of protection. Because someone who treated me like a backup plan wasn't going to walk out of my life with the parachute I paid for. When I walked back into the house, she was in the kitchen wearing a robe she hadn't touched in months, trying to look warm, domestic, familiar. She was making breakfast like she believed she could cook reality back into place. "Hey," she chirped. "Made you coffee." I didn't even look at the mug. I set the stack of bank papers on the table. "Everything's finalized," I said. She blinked. "What? What do you mean finalized?" "The accounts, the house. My attorneys have everything now. You said you wanted freedom, so now you have it." The mug began to tremble in her hand. "Curtis, wait. You thought I'd blink?" I said. "I didn't. You thought I'd fall apart." "I didn't. You thought if you stayed long enough, I'd forget what you did." I let that hang in the air. "I didn't." Her lips parted, nothing came out. Then the tears finally hit. Not the usual rehearsed ones. Not the ones designed to flip the script. Real tears. The kind that spill out when someone realizes the rope is gone, and they've officially run out of people to blame. "I didn't think you'd actually stop loving me," she whispered. "I didn't," I said softly. "I just stopped letting you use it." And I walked out. But the story didn't end there. 2 weeks later, something showed up in my mailbox. A plain envelope with no return address. Just a handwritten name on the back. Jerry. I stared at it for a long time. Part of me didn't even want to open it. I wasn't sure if it would be a petty jab, a pathetic apology, or some twisted victory lap. Curiosity won. The letter was only a few lines. "I didn't know she was married when we met. She told me you were controlling. If I had known the truth, I wouldn't have touched it. Sorry for what I stepped in. Respect." No signature. No number. Just a final reminder of how thoroughly she had lied. About me, about herself, about everything. She didn't just betray me. She rewrote reality to make herself the victim in a story she caused. She wasn't running from the marriage. She was running from accountability. But here's the part that surprised me the most. I wasn't angry. I felt clean. Light. Free in a way I hadn't felt in nearly a decade. For the first time, I wasn't guessing what my partner was feeling. I wasn't tiptoeing around invisible landmines. I wasn't trying to fix something that only broke whenever she needed leverage. For the first time in years, I had my own space, my own money, my own schedule, my own peace, and the one thing I thought I'd lost forever, my self-respect. I didn't respond to Jerry. He didn't earn that. But I did write something that day. Not to him. To myself. A reminder. Never let love become a leash. Never ignore the warning signs again. And if someone insists they want freedom, don't argue. Open the door. And lock it behind them. So yes, this whole thing started with a lie. But it ended with clarity. And honestly, clarity is better than closure. If you appreciate raw, honest, and dark stories like this, make sure you subscribe to Dark Infidelity Stories. Hit like, share, and leave a comment. Your support helps these powerful stories reach even more people who need to hear them.